literature talk a lot to people about what can they do to be safe while being around wild animals, and I'm glad that some of you have already asked some of those questions. And I have some resources for you, which I'll give to you in just a couple of minutes. But the thing that I want to impress upon you, honestly, if you come away from this, the first thing is a healthy coyote is a fearful coyote, really. And that's the way it is with any wild animal, whether it be a bear or a raccoon. We want to make sure that they stay really afraid. And there's some simple things that you can do to ensure that you're safe and that the animal is safe, because it's really in their best interest too that they be fearful. And one of the things that as Officer Miller talked about that's going on is that active hunting and trapping of coyotes can help not only keep their population in check potentially, but also keep them fearful. That's really important, as you mentioned, as they're moving into more urban areas, we're seeing more potentials for conflict. So I know one of the questions a lot of you might have if you're fearful, especially after the recent incident, which is very scary. I could understand it being very scary, but some things to think about are that coyote attacks are very, very, very rare. And when they do happen, they're much more common out west with more urbanized coyotes. They have a larger problem with them in urban areas than outside of Los Angeles, but they're moving into cities. Chicago has a pretty healthy coyote population there, and as Officer Miller talked about, it could be in Philadelphia, it could be in Pittsburgh, but they are very, very rare. I like to tell people that you are 25 times more likely to die by being struck by lightning than being bit by a coyote. So you are 25 more times more likely to die by being struck by lightning, not just struck by lightning. So it is very, very rare. But of course, when it happens, you're going to be scared. The other thing to keep in mind is that most likely if there is a conflict like that, then that animal is sick. And there are things that you can do to prevent the spread of rabies and also just be aware about rabies. If that animal was rabid, I'm sure you've probably talked already, within 5 to 10 days, an animal that's showing sign of rabies will be dead. And 10 days is stretching it way out. So if an animal's showing clinical symptoms of rabies, that animal, if that animal was sick with that, then it most likely is already dead. So is there anything else that the poor woman that was attacked could have done? Probably not. She did what she could. She got away and it ran away, and that's good. But if you have a healthy coyote that just happens to be in your neighborhood, there's some things that you can do to prevent yourself from having a conflict. So some of the things that were already mentioned, I have some just like quick handouts that you can do. I tell people there's basic safety that you can do at your own home. If you have pets, don't leave pets outside. If you have a cat, a safe cat is an indoor cat, right? So don't leave pet food outside. A safe cat is an indoor cat. If you have weekly trash collection. So ours is always Monday night, and I have a 15-year-old, and that's his job. And if he forgets, he's in a whole lot of trouble. But he actually puts it out in the morning, because we know when they're coming to get on the bus, just because we know, well, where we live, it's more likely to be raccoons. So they're always getting into our stuff. But he puts it out in the morning. Same thing with the recycling. You don't want anything scented that's going to make them curious, because just like Officer Miller said, they're looking for an easy meal. So in general, coyotes are really fearful animals. We did a study looking at camera traps at baits. We put out road-killed carcasses, and we took thousands of pictures of animals that came into those carcasses. And let me tell you, we had lots of pictures of coyotes, and the coyotes were often sitting in the back waiting for everything else to eat. We have one series of pictures where we had a coyote that sat by itself. It waited for every single other animal to eat, and before it approached that carcass. It was that fearful, even though it was a pretty easy meal. There were 3 crows at one point, and it still wouldn't come up to the carcass. So even though they're becoming more bold, they're generally naturally timid, fearful animals. But that can be used to your advantage, right? So there's some things you can do. Like I mentioned. Putting out your trash, but right before it's going to be picked up, not leaving it out for many, many hours or even over a day. If you think you have a coyote problem in your neighborhood, if you've seen one out there and it's making you nervous, maybe don't put your bird feeders out, because that's going to attract birds and small mammals that they like to eat. So they may come in it and be curious. Clean up your barbecue grill. Little things like that can go a long way. You can always bring things with you if you're afraid you might have a conflict. You know, if you see a coyote, or a coyote, sorry, I was raised always saying coyote, so I sometimes slip back into there, but if you see a coyote, you can make yourself big. This works with almost all wildlife species. Okay, so not just coyotes, bears, or anything else that may make you uncomfortable. Make yourself big, clap your hands, let it know you're there. I would honestly be much more nervous walking my dog at night and seeing an unattended, unleashed dog than I probably would seeing a coyote. Because when that has happened, and it's happened where I live twice, when that happened, my Springer Spaniel that I walk at night barked once, and that coyote took the other direction. I'd be much more nervous about seeing a dog I don't know off leash running around the neighborhood, because they could associate people with food. I don't know if it's going to come up and wag its tail, or if it's going to come up and bite me. I don't know. So I don't know anything about that animal. So